All right, so buckle up, everybody, because today on the deep dive, we're going to be diving headfirst into one of the most talked about, most controversial, and just flat out wild films ever made.
Oh, I know where this is going.
You got it, Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange.
A classic.
We got this amazing film review here that really gets into like all the nitty-gritty, the themes, the visuals, the impact it had on culture, all of that.
Sound like a good one.
Yeah. And I think anyone who's seen this movie knows it's not for the faint of heart.
Definitely pushes some buttons.
Oh, absolutely. It's meant to be provocative,
Mhm.
and, I think that's a big part of what makes it such a masterpiece, but we'll get into all of that.
Looking forward to it.
So this film, it takes us into this really dystopian future, right?
Yeah, it's like this weird mix of familiar and totally alien, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see bits of our world in it, but then it takes this dark turn. Really makes you think.
Exactly. And the review, it calls the film a masterpiece for a reason. It's not just, a visually stunning film. It's that Kubrick uses all these techniques, these like visual metaphors almost, to mess with your mind.
Oh, he was a master of that, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
one of the things I always think about is his use of wide-angle lenses. Everything is distorted, kind of like off-kilter.
Right, and that reflects like the whole warped reality of the movie itself.
Right, like you're constantly feeling uneasy, like you're on edge, which is kind of how Alex and his droogs are throughout the film as they're, wreaking havoc.
And let's not forget that crazy color palette.
Oh my gosh, yes. The colors.
All those like saturated reds and oranges. It's almost like a nightmare carnival or something.
It's beautiful, though.
In a really disturbing kind of way, yeah.
Totally. And then you've got the music, which,
Yeah.
who in their right mind would think to combine Beethoven with ultraviolence?
That's Kubrick for you, always subverting expectations.
Yeah, but it works. It creates this really jarring effect, like this weird duality. It's saying something about beauty and brutality and how they coexist.
And now we react to it all, right? Like, are we repulsed? Are we intrigued? Or are we maybe a bit of both?
It's a question that stays with you for sure.
And that's why A Clockwork Orange still has this power to it all these years later. Kubrick wasn't about giving easy answers. He wanted to make you think, make you uncomfortable, make you question.
Right, and you can't talk about A Clockwork Orange without talking about Alex DeLarge. This guy, he's a total psychopath, but there's something about him you almost can't help but be drawn to him.
It's that charisma, that intelligence. You see flashes of it even when he's doing the most horrible things.
It's crazy how Kubrick and Malcolm McDowell pulled that off.
McDowell's performance is just, it's iconic.
Iconic is the right word. It's like you can't separate Alex from McDowell.
And those eyes, man, those wide, unblinking eyes, like you can see the violence just simmering beneath the surface.
And yet, he loves his Beethoven. It's like this weird joke almost, right? This juxtaposition of high art and just pure depravity.
It's a question a lot of people have asked about the film. Can beauty and evil exist side by side?
And is that like a part of what makes us human?
That's the deep stuff Kubrick gets you thinking about.
Oh, yeah. And we can't forget the NADSAT, the language they use in the film.
Ah, NADSA. Yeah, it's like he created a whole new world with this language.
It's so strange at first. It's almost alienating. But as you start to pick it up, it kind of draws you into Alex's world,
It's like you're being initiated into this secret society or something.
Exactly. It's like you start to understand Alex, maybe even sympathize with him a little, even though he's doing these terrible, terrible things.
And that's the genius of Kubrick, right? He's playing with us, the viewers, making us complicit in a way.
It's like you're watching this unfold, you're horrified, but at the same time, there's this part of you that's just, I don't know, fascinated.
It's like he's holding up this mirror to society and saying, hey, look at yourselves. This darkness is in all of us.
And it's not just individuals either, right? He's pointing the finger at the systems we create, the institutions that are supposed to protect us.
Right, like the authorities in the film, they're brutal, in some ways even more so than Alex.
Oh, for sure. The way they go about trying to cure him is just as disturbing as anything Alex does.
The Ludovico technique, yeah, they essentially try to brainwash him into being good.
It makes you think, is that really a cure? Or is it just another form of control?
That's the question, isn't it? And it gets to the heart of the whole debate about free will versus determinism. Do we have a choice in who we are, or are we just products of our environment or conditioning?
Man, that's heavy stuff. No wonder people freaked out when this film first came out.
It touched a nerve, that's for sure. And I think that's why it's still relevant. It asks these really uncomfortable questions about ourselves and the world we live in.
And the fact that it's still controversial all these years later, I think that just proves how powerful it is.
It definitely sparked a conversation, and that conversation is still going on today. It definitely did. It poked the bear, no question. And it's funny because all that outrage, it kind of proves Kubrick's point, doesn't it? We're so quick to condemn violence, but when it comes to like the subtle ways we control each other,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
like imposing our ideas of what's good and
Yeah,
bad.
right. Like we think we're so civilized.
Exactly. But the film is saying, hey, maybe we're not that far off from that dystopian world you see with Alex.
It's scary how real it feels sometimes.
It really taps into those primal fears we have about losing our individuality.
Becoming like cogs in a machine.
Exactly. And Kubrick uses every tool he has to make you feel that. The music, the visuals, even the language.
Oh, the NADSAT. It's like he created a whole new world with that.
It's brilliant, though. It really adds to that sense of alienation.
It does. Like you're struggling to understand, just like society is struggling to understand Alex and his motives.
And it's not just gibberish either. There's actually a real structure to it. Burgess, the guy who wrote the book, he was a linguist, you know?
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he put a lot of thought into it. It's a mix of Russian, Cockney rhyming slang, all sorts of stuff.
So it's not just a gimmick then. It's like another layer of meaning.
Absolutely. It's like we're constantly trying to decode Alex, just like we're trying to decode our own dark impulses.
That's a really interesting way to put it. I never thought about it like that.
And the more we try to understand NADSAT, the more we're drawn into Alex's world.
It's almost like against our will.
It's like a subtle form of manipulation, right? You're becoming complicit in his crimes just by trying to understand him.
Whoa, that's deep. Kind of like those viewers in the film who get a kick out of watching Alex and his droogs.
Exactly. Kubrick's always playing with us, turning things upside down, making us question everything.
Like the ending, for example.
Oh, yeah. What is up with that ending?
Is Alex really cured? Or is he just manipulating everyone?
That's the big question, isn't it? Kubrick leaves it open to interpretation.
It's like he wants us to decide for ourselves, do we believe in redemption? Or are some people just born bad?
And maybe there's not a right answer. Maybe it's more about accepting that people are complex, that we're all capable of good and bad.
Yeah, that's a pretty unsettling thought, but it's also kind of freeing in a way, right?
Like, we have the potential to change, but it's a choice we have to make every day.
It's like that line from the book, goodness is something chosen. When a man cannot choose, he ceases to be a man.
Powerful stuff, right? That's the core of what the film is trying to say. Don't try to control people. Don't try to manipulate them, no matter how good your intentions might be.
It's a message that's more relevant than ever today, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about all the ways we're bombarded with messages telling us what to think, what to buy, who to vote for.
It's easy to feel like we're losing our own agency.
And that's where A Clockwork Orange comes in. It's a wake-up call. It's saying, hey, you have a choice. Fight for it, even if it means choosing wrong sometimes.
It's definitely a film that makes you think, but let's talk about something a little lighter for a second. I mean, this film has had a huge impact on pop culture, hasn't it?
Oh, for sure. You see those images, the costumes, the music, everywhere.
It's like it's seeped into our collective subconscious.
Yeah, and it's not just the superficial stuff, it's the ideas, too, that whole exploration of the dark side of humanity.
It pops up everywhere. Movies, TV, music, even video games.
There's a whole aesthetic that's grown up around it, this mix of futuristic and retro, that sense of unease, of rebellion.
It's like shorthand for dystopia now.
And it's a testament to how strong Kubrick's vision was. He created a world that was terrifying and mesmerizing at the same time.
And it stuck with us, I mean, for decades.
But it's not just about the visuals, it's those deeper themes that keep resonating. The questions about free will, about good and evil, they never really go away.
And that's why A Clockwork Orange is still so powerful. I think it's not just a film you watch. It's a film you experience, you argue with, you wrestle with.
It gets under your skin, stays with you long after it's over.
Wow, we've really gone deep, haven't we? All these layers to this film, the themes, the style, the controversy, even how it's influenced, like everything.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is, and you know, it blows me away. After all this time, all the people who have analyzed it, written about it, A Clockwork Orange still feels fresh. It still gets under your skin.
It's like Kubrick had the sixth sense, you know? He knew how to tap into something primal about being human.
And he made it look so good while doing it, right?
Yeah.
All the visuals, the music, but then it also makes you think.
It's a puzzle, but the kind where every time you think you've got it figured out, there's another layer.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just a movie you watch, it's one you experience, almost like a dream.
Kind of a nightmare there, right?
In a way, yeah, but it makes you question things. Like even when you're awake, it sticks with you.
Makes you wonder, are we really that different from Alex and his droogs? Like, are we all just one bad day away from going crazy?
Or, I guess on the flip side, are we capable of being good even when everything's messed up?
Those are the big questions, the ones this film really forces you to think about.
And that's why it's so important, right? Because it's not just entertainment. I don't know, it's like a challenge.
It's holding up this mirror, showing us these ugly truths about ourselves and the world.
And then it's like, okay, now what are you going to do about it?
You gotta decide, right? Is this a warning? Is it a challenge? Or is it just, like, showing us that we have the potential for both good and evil inside us?
You know, diving into all this, it makes me wonder, what would Kubrick think of the world today? So much has changed since he made the film, but
But so much is the same too, right?
exactly, like the violence, the control, the media.
The media, yeah. I bet he'd have a lot to say about that, about how it's used to manipulate people.
I think he'd be both fascinated and horrified by how technology has changed things.
Like the internet, social media, it's like a 247 Ludovico technique almost.
Whoa, yeah, you're right. It's shaping our thoughts, our behaviors, and we don't even realize it half the time.
And that's why I think A Clockwork Orange is still so important. It's a reminder to pay attention, to question things, to think for yourself.
It's like he's saying, don't be a clockwork orange. Don't let them control you.
You have a choice, even when it feels like you don't.
So what about you listening? Have you seen A Clockwork Orange? If not, maybe give it a try. It's definitely not for everyone, but it's a film that'll stick with you.
It's a trip, that's for sure. A journey into, well, the dark side of humanity. But it also reminds you that even there, even in the darkness, there's still hope.
The hope that we can be better, that we can make better choices.
And that's what makes these deep dives so cool, right? It's not just about learning stuff. It's about these big questions, the ones that really make you think.
Yeah, it's about figuring out who we are, why we're here, all that good stuff.
So keep asking those questions, keep digging deeper, because there's always more to discover.
That's all for our deep dive into A Clockwork Orange. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time for another one of these wild rides.